So just a quick announcement again before starting off with the video. Unfortunately, as I mentioned in the last video, the audio for the microphone in this video did not port over properly. So the file actually got corrupted. So I can't do much about that. But the contents of the video are still brilliant. In my opinion, I think it gives a really good insight into why young people join political parties, especially in the last video with Labour and now in this video with Fine Gael. So I hope you enjoy nonetheless. Fine Gael was founded in 1933 following the merger of Cumann na Gael, the National Centre Party and the National Guard, commonly known as the Blue Shirts. Its original founding members were W.T. Cosgrave, Frank McDermott and Owen O'Duffy. The party is positioned to the centre-right of the political compass and in recent years has identified its ideology most with liberal conservatism. The party has been in government for the previous 9 years with mixed feelings from the public. Some claim that Fine Gael have done the best they could, given the circumstances of the financial recession in Ireland prior to them taking office in 2011, while others have argued that it is solely down to Fine Gael's economic policies that they have not been able to deal with the ever-growing housing and homelessness crisis. I sat down with Luke Corkery, a member of both Fine Gael and Young Fine Gael, to find out why he got involved in youth politics and why he decided to join Fine Gael. What initially sparked your interest in politics?
I suppose while not coming from a political family, like many people in political parties do, particularly my own, I was always encouraged to pay an interest to current affairs, to the news, that sort of thing as a child. And I did genuinely gain an interest, I suppose. I suppose things like history would have always been things I was passionate about in school, and then I suppose my first political memory would have been the 2011 general election, and I distinctly remember looking at the posters and the leaflets and just kind of taking a real interest in it all. Actually, one memory that I have is actually of my then local TD, Dr. James Riley, handing out pens at my school, and that was probably my first ever political interaction. And then I also loved to draw as a kid, and I remember one time drawing each of the candidates in my constituency based on their leaflets, and on one occasion Alan Farrell came to the door, and my parents made me show him the drawing that I'd done of him, so that was I hope it was flattering anyway.
So then obviously moving on from that in regards to party politics, what made you want to join Young Fine Gael?
Well, I suppose it was Fine Gael more so than Young Fine Gael, and Young Fine Gael being the youth wing of the Fine Gael party. And I suppose once I gained that interest in politics from a young age, Fine Gael, I suppose, was the party that had a core set of values that I found I believed in. Those values being equality of opportunity, which is my personal favourite, enterprise and reward, security, integrity and hope. They're actually not something that most members of the party, I would say, could name, but they are there. They're there on our website and to see for anyone who wants to see it. But I didn't see that in any other party. I also, at the time, around 2016 would have been the time of Ireland's economic recovery. I saw Fine Gael as a modern party that would always put the country first. And then once I joined, I suppose I did find a home for myself in Fine Gael and found like-minded people. So it's definitely somewhere where I feel I can make my voice heard and where people will, side with me. Not always. We are a broad church, as is often pointed out, and we are often, Fine Gael means the family of the Irish, and like a family, we do have our arguments, we do kind of have things out, but we will always come together in the end, I feel, and I think that's an important part of our party.
So what part of politics now keeps you involved, mainly in youth politics?
I think, like I say, Fine Gael is always somewhere where you can have your voice heard. Opportunity is something that's really important to us, and I'm passionate about my politics. I'm passionate about going out there, canvassing, talking to people, spreading our message. And there are people, candidates and TDs and senators in our party who I'm really passionate about as well, who I really I'm proud to call our public representatives. And it's the people in the party really that keep me going. And really, I suppose, the fact that there are issues that we need to face up to as a country, and that I think Fine Gael has faced up to in a mature manner. One of those being the referendum on the 8th Amendment, which I campaigned hard for a yes vote in that referendum, and I think Fine Gael's manner of dealing with that was not a radical one. It was one where we held citizens' assembly, we let people come forward, we had an Oireachtas committee as well. People could come forward with their personal stories where their voices could be heard, and then we kind of gained a consensus as a party. We discussed that at our national conference, and for a party which would have been seen as quite conservative, becoming that bit more progressive and modern is something that I think is very mature for us to do, and I think we when people talk about change, as particularly recently, I think Fine Gael has become a party of change as of late with the marriage equality referendum, the 8th Amendment referendums on divorce and blasphemy as well. Social progress is something that's really important to me, and I think Fine Gael has become a vehicle for that.
In regards to politicians then in general, well, I suppose mainly in your own party because they were in government, but in regards to all politicians as a whole, how much do you think they listen to young people, and if so, in what areas in particular?
I think politicians could do with listening to young people a lot more than they do. And I think there are certain issues that have really mobilised young people. The biggest one as of late being the climate crisis. I think that's very obvious, very clear to see. We've seen the marches, the rallies in the streets in cities across the world. The school strikes for climate action, which young people have really taken a lead on. And I think they have taken such a stance that politicians are forced to listen, and that climate action is forced to be pushed to the front of every party's agenda. Obviously parties like the Green Party kind of have, I suppose, a bit of a monopoly on issues like climate action, and we saw the green surge, the green wave as it was called there lately. But climate action is definitely something I think Fine Gael has taken the lead on in the past few years, now that it has been pushed to the forefront of everyone's agenda, and that what we have done is ban microbeads. We are introducing a ban on single-use plastics, more grants for electric cars. I know I sound like I'm canvassing you here, but these are things we have done, and I think issues like climate action need to be at the forefront of everyone's agenda. And it's young people who've pushed that, and that's something that we should really be proud of, I think.
So what aspects of youth politics now, similar enough to the 8th Amendment, marriage equality, could people get involved, young people especially, get involved in now that wouldn't have, say, a partisan view for politics, so like no party involvement really?
Yeah. Now, I think, as I've mentioned, climate action is definitely something huge. You have mentioned that, but I think in terms of the social progress movements of our generation, mine have been obviously the referendum on the 8th referendum on marriage equality, and then obviously climate action is now huge as well. But I think we do have a long way to go in terms of other things which may spring up. Things like a woman's place in the home is up and coming, not as divisive, it's not as big an issue. And another thing being obviously the issue of euthanasia, which is something that our country hasn't really looked at. But I think we really have made progress as a traditionally Catholic country, and I think our political atmosphere does reflect that now.
So I suppose the final question then is really, you've been involved in politics for quite a bit of time now, especially youth politics. What's next then, obviously for yourself in the future of not only youth politics but politics in general?
In general, well, I suppose I see my future in politics. I'm studying international relations. It's a course I'm really interested in, and obviously plenty of like-minded people and non-like-minded people who you can, I suppose, get into a bit of a debate with now and then. But I see my future in politics anyway. It's somewhere I would like to end up, be that in politics as a profession or on the sidelines somewhere. In terms of would I like to run for elected office someday, if the opportunity rises, sure. If it doesn't, so be it. You know, that's politics. But like I say, my own party does open up a lot of windows for that. Does give people the opportunity to contest elections if that's what they choose to do. I do think we need a lot more young people in politics who could make a difference. And in terms of Young Fine Gael, we have seen loads of excellent young candidates springing up, particularly in the recent local elections. In 2019, we even in the past general election, we didn't have as many young candidates as I would have liked to see, but you know, there are quite senior members of our party who are still eligible for Young Fine Gael membership, which is under 35. Some would argue whether that is young or not. I'm sure they're quite proud of hanging on to their YFG membership, but I do think, yeah, young people in politics, we need a lot more of it, and we need a lot more people who are in politics for the right reasons.
Yeah, I suppose this isn't really a question on the list, and we can cut it out if you want to, but I had asked a few of the other people I sat down with in regards to how they feel social media has kind of influenced the state of politics in regards to young people in general. More so on the reason of, do you think it creates barriers for people who would be very good in public office running for it because of the pressure of what people would say on social media?
Yeah, well, I think there are different sides to social media. I think the side that young people see can be quite toxic. You know, particularly on Twitter, and in, you know, well, all social media platforms, I suppose, you know, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, being the main ones. I think you do see a lot of nastiness, you do see bullying, you do see harassment of public representatives, people putting themselves up for election, and I think, you know, fair play to anyone who puts themselves forward for election, or anyone who is involved in elected politics, regardless of their beliefs. But I think, you know, as a politician, you expect a bit of scrutiny, but I think people can go too far. People can often not realise, you know, the impact of the comments that they can make. And then in terms of how social media affects how people vote, I think it really does among young people. In Ireland here, in the recent election, you know, we've seen a huge presence in Sinn Féin linked activity on social media. A lot of it being quite, well, I don't want to say this is fake news there, but a lot of it is kind of a cult following, I feel. I do think there are great people in Sinn Féin. I know them personally, and there are you know, public representatives in Sinn Féin who I really respect. But I think a lot of it comes from this idea of what the party is. A lot, you know, now that you can obviously advertise on Facebook and this sort of thing, I think Facebook's, the measures Facebook and other social media platforms have brought in to address fake news are very welcome, and that sort of the guidelines that you have to follow in terms of political advertising on social media. But obviously that won't affect individual people, and I think it's important people inform themselves independently and don't use social media as a way of informing themselves about political issues.